Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
And I'm Brian Thomas. Thunder tits! Thunder tits!
And welcome to another episode of the Ruthless Talk podcast. Yes,
Welcome. It's a great day. Great day. Thursday. It's a fucking national holiday in my book.
Yes, thank you, Brian, so much. Because yes, today is a national holiday. Happy MLB Opening Day to everybody who is a baseball fan out there that does watch this podcast. And even though, yes, this is a wrestling podcast, that is what we're going to start off for this episode. Now, there is a lot to go over, especially outside of the WWE production, right? Everything about WrestleMania, of course. We got AEW and them leading into AEW Dynasty. And then in the summer, we got AEW All In. Outside of all of that, there's been a lot of wrestling news, a lot of breaking news over the course of 48 hours. And we're going to talk all about it. But first things first, man, it's only right on this glorious day that is MLB Opening Day that we talk a little bit of baseball, man, to start off. So, Brian, I'll let you start off, man. You know, what are your thoughts? Of course, today is such an amazing day. We got a bunch of baseball games coming up. You know, we'll talk, who we feel like is the front runner to win it all this year, right? There's a lot of clear-cut favorites, in Major League Baseball. But, I'll let you get your thoughts in, man, about MLB Opening Day. What are you excited for? Any teams that you're looking in regards to winning it all this year? What do you think, man? The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. I fucking love this day, man. Mark it down on the calendar every year. As for me personally, I mean, the teams I follow, the two teams, New York Yankees, Baltimore Orioles. The product of where I grew up. I love both of these teams. So that's who I'm going to be following. I'm a little bit disappointed with what the Orioles have done the past 2 years with the number of prospects that they do have. And of course, I mean, Yankees, Cole's out. So that's a huge hit. I do expect a big season from Max Fried, though, in that Yankee rotation. But neither one of those teams, I think, are gonna have what it takes to get to the World Series this year. But I'll leave it there, and then get a little bit of your thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm the same way as you, man. I love MLB Opening Day, man, especially, of course, as a New York Mets fan, I love, this time of year, hearing the introductions when, they start off the very first game of the season, right? Man. Introducing the team, introducing the staff, right? Everything about this day is it's just glorious, man. Where's Bobby Roode when you need him? Glorious, right?
Right.
So, yeah, man, in regards to, with favorites, right? Who's the front runner? Who is championship worthy? Who is a contender to have a deep playoff run and potentially a World Series championship? Obviously a few teams come to mind. Obviously, number one is the Los Angeles Dodgers, to where I don't know how they're continuing to get away with this shit, to where they are just signing everybody underneath the sun. They just got this new Japanese pitcher from this offseason.
And Blake Snell.
And Blake Snell and all of these
and Tanner Scott.
Yeah, exactly, man. You still have Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and all of those other guys over there. So obviously those guys, and the Shohei Ohtanis, of course, they had their Tokyo series just a couple of weeks ago as they defeated the Cubs in a 2-game series. So obviously they are the juggernauts, and they're most likely will be the guys to go back. Maybe obvious, of course, to the World Series, but I think it's a guarantee, or at least we expect it to be a guarantee, that they'll be back in that National League Championship Series. The question is that who can take down this juggernaut that's known as the Los Angeles Dodgers? So I guess since I'm talking National League, I guess I'll just stick with that, right? I'll start off with the Braves, man. I mean, the Braves, who had very an unlucky type of season with so many injuries. You had Ronald Acuna Jr. that was out, midway through the season. They lost Austin Riley. Ozzy Osbourne was pretty much dealing with minor injuries that entire season, right? You had Spencer Strider, who was hurt. But now with everybody healthy and everybody coming back, now they're one of those contenders to where if they're fully healthy, man, and this is coming from a New York Mets fan, dude, like this team This team is damn good. But the question is, for somebody like Ronald Acuna Jr., who developed a torn ACL injury, it's, for a lot of athletes, we've seen this for not just in baseball, in many sports. It's hard to come back from. It's hard to be the same type of player. So it's going to be interesting how not only are the Atlanta Braves going to bring back all these people and see what they can do to get back in championship contention, but are these players going to be the same functional, athletes, the same type of athletes that we know that they're being? Now, obviously, start of the season, they'll just try to get their feet wet, try to get their bearings in order. And then by midway through the season, we'll probably get a good glimpse of where they're at and where they're going to be most likely towards the end of the season. So obviously, the Braves is one of them. The Philadelphia Phillies, who I believe is still going to be winning the National League East. That team is still pretty much kind of running it back with almost the same roster. With Nick Castellanos, with Bryce Harper, with Zach Wheeler, that entire pitching staff. And the Cubs, I guess I'll mention the Cubs. I was going to say the Mets, but I'll save the Mets for just a second. The Cubs, man, who've had a really good offseason, they're in the run to maybe potentially win the NL Central and, of course, to potentially get a wild card spot. The Boston Red Sox, I know I'm going over American League, but, they just acquired Alex Bregman, to be their third baseman. And now that there's a question now with Rafael Devers of what he's going to do. Is he just going to be in the DH role? But the New York Mets, man, the New York Mets, of course, I made a video not too long ago, and Brian, you were a part of it, of winning the Juan Soto sweepstakes, right? So I will say, do I think the Mets can win this division? Yes. Do I think they will? Probably not, because of just how average their starting pitching rotation is. You have Sean Manaea, who's going to miss at least a quarter or at least a couple of games to start the season. You have Kodai Senga back, which is a really good, good positive light. Francisco Alvarez is hurt, who's our starting catcher, our upcoming catcher, who's going to be out for quite some time. So
I hope we get, sorry to cut you off, but the catcher, man, Alvarez, I hope he can get over this injury bug. That's kind of, I know he's young and whatever, but a full season from him, dude. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And we'll see how he continues to improve, as he's still pretty much a young buck in Major League Baseball, still getting his bearings in order. So yeah, the question, man, is just the pitching, man, is the pitching rotation right now. I mean, Clay Holmes has done a tremendous job this spring training, and I love the decision for him to start today's matchup against the Milwaukee Brewers to start opening day. So I really like that decision. You have guys at the back of the rotation like the Tyler McGills and the David Petersons and everything. And of course, this offense, right? The offense, who is now pretty much now the strength of this team, with Francisco Lindor. We talked about Juan Soto, Brandon Nimmo, all of these guys, right, that are going to come on in. But then, of course, Pete Alonso. But the question is, though, man, even with somebody like Brandon Nimmo, and I love Brandon Nimmo, love the freaking dude, but we talk about injuries, right? We talk about people who are very inconsistent. Brandon Nimmo is a guy from last year who was very inconsistent, a guy who was at the top of the lineup who was very inconsistent. Pete Alonso, I mean, this dude, we didn't know where Pete Alonso was going to go this free agency.
Until about a month ago?
A month or so ago, month and a half, and now here he is. So the question is Pete Alonso going to carry, his end of the bargain to at least produce?
I think he'll have a huge year.
I think he will. I mean, who knows in regards
behind
to it?
Soto, yeah.
You would think he would have a massive chip on his shoulder now. He's got this second opportunity, this second life to get a really good contract, as he's got this 2-year deal, but he has a chance where he has that second year to opt out into free agency. So you would think he would have a massive chip on his shoulder this year, of course, like you mentioned, hitting behind Juan Soto. So as a Mets fan, man, I'm still very excited, man. Obviously, they're a much better team this year than they were last year. You have Mark Vientos, who I really, really like, who's another up-and-comer like Francisco Alvarez that we talked about, who's really good third baseman. Hopefully he is now going to be the primary third baseman for the next 5+ years, hopefully. At least that's the hope and everything. So my still pick right now is probably the Philadelphia Phillies until further notice. And that's going to be a hard division, man, with the Phillies, the Braves who are now healthy, and now you have the New York Mets who are going to be, of course, in contention. It won't be a shock if you see all three of those teams in the playoffs. And then, of course, you know, the Diamondbacks, right, who have had a really good last couple of seasons. They were in the World Series not too long ago. So yeah, man, it's gonna be very, very interesting. You know, even the Detroit Tigers, right? The Texas Rangers, you got Jacob deGrom coming back. So there's all these questions, but it's going to be really exciting to see how everything plays out, man. So, Brian, any final takes, man, in regards to that?
Yeah. So let me talk about Baltimore and New York here a little bit. You know, obviously going to love watching the young players in Baltimore. But again, like you said with the Mets, man, it's pitching. And, you know, Rodriguez, you know, they're hopefully ace of, you know, the future. He's starting on the IL. Bradish isn't back yet. They haven't made any moves. So in that division, like I said, I'm a Baltimore and New York fan, and as much as I hate to say it, it fucking kills me. But Boston's probably going to win that division. Like you said, the getting Bregman, and not even that. It's Crochet and Walker Buehler. I think he flew under the radar. You know, not that he's going to have some monster year, but that guy is a huge pickup for Boston. So, yeah, I think Boston's winning that one in the East. The Central, I think it's KC and Detroit. Bobby Witt, I would say, is probably on the short list for potential MVP. Their pitching staff, how they use that, if they can replicate that again. Again, no like stars, but I mean Reagans, Waka, who else was in there? Seth Lugo. It's those type of pitchers.
Former Met, by the way.
Who they're not blowing you away, but man, these starters go 6 and 7 innings, and it eases up on the bullpen, and that's the beauty of it. So I like them. Going over to the West, I think it's Seattle and Texas. And another hot takes here, I guess. Logan Gilbert, he's my front runner for the Cy Young. And Julio Rodriguez, man, you know, he's a historically horrible starter until about the All-Star break. But if he can get going soon, I mean, that's a 40-40 guy. Seattle and that pitching staff, if Seattle gets a little bit of offense, that Seattle's pitching staff can shut anybody down. So I would say ALCS, Boston, Seattle. Boston, I'll say Boston probably taking it right now. And then you go over to the NL, man, like you said, the Braves, the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to win 105, 110 games in the regular season. I mean, mark that down. But postseason, it's a different animal. Yeah, they're still the front runner. But like you mentioned, like who can take them down? The Braves. A healthy Ronald Acuna who can easily go 30-60. Strider returning. Schwellenbeck, who I think is going to be really good. Austin Riley. So, yeah. Michael Harris. So, yeah, that team, I think they're winning the East. And if I had to pick a team to beat the Dodgers, it probably will be them. And then in the Central, man, the Cubs, you're right. And Cincinnati Reds, man, I'm telling you, Terry Francona is going to make a huge difference there. And my short list for MVP, Ellie De La Cruz. That dude is going to be 30 homers, 80 steals this year. Like I think that guy he's on the come up. And you mentioned the Cubs too. Another MVP candidate, Kyle Tucker. If Chicago, you know, does what I think they're going to do here, Kyle Tucker be in that conversation too. So yeah, man. A lot of good shit all around. Really, really excited to see what Ellie De La Cruz does this year. Like you said, Julio Rodriguez. Hopefully he can have a bounce back. And speaking of your Mets, I mean, Juan Soto is going to be in there in the MVP conversation. And, Alonso hitting behind him. If he can hit 40, 50 jacks, 110 RBIs, they're going to be there. They're going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, they've improved their bullpen too, which is also, much needed as well. But definitely comes down to that pitching staff, and Sean Manaea coming back healthy. And when he does come back healthy, it's going to depend on where they're going to be at in regards to when he is back in the rotation. But so
one more hot take.
Go ahead. Yeah.
There's a pitcher out there that is going to be traded by or at the All-Star deadline. And I don't know whoever he's traded to. Maybe they make the World Series. Maybe they don't. Sandy Alcantara. Whoever gets that dude is significantly improved their chances in the postseason.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of guys. You'll see that even from people like the Blue Jays, like Bo Bichette, probably from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Vlad Guerrero, maybe.
Vlad Guerrero as well. By the trade deadline, they're probably going to be pretty much gone. The Toronto Blue Jays are kind of like at that point to where most likely going in a different direction for the most part, as well as people like the Florida the Miami Marlins, I should say. I'm still calling them the Florida Marlins still, but
right.
But yeah, just to kind of wrap this up, I mean, like you mentioned the American League East, like I mentioned with the National League East, it's like there are three contenders for that division to win that AL American League East. You have the Yankees, even though yes, Garrett Cole is out for the remaining of the season, but I still think that they're still talented to where they can still make a run for that division. Of course, the Baltimore
Jazz
Orioles.
Chisholm and Cody Bellinger, those two. And for the pitching staff, Max Fried and Carlos Rondon, they gotta fucking step up. Yeah.
If Carlos Rondon can have the season that he had last year, or at least near towards halfway last year, I think they'll be fine. And if Max Fried can live up to expectations in that rotation, I think that they can still take that division. Of course,
I would even go further with Rondon, which last year was great or good. But especially without Cole, man, he's got to get back to San Francisco Giants Rondon or close to that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt the Yankees can get to the postseason, win the division. But without Garrett Cole, man, their championship aspirations are very unlikely than they are likely, because when it comes down to playoff baseball, they're going to need him. And without him, there's only so much that they can do, and of course,
that's the problem with the Orioles too. The Orioles have, their opening day starter is Zach Eflin, who, he's good, but that dude is like a number 3 starter on a good rotation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do like their chances of still making the postseason and getting a wild card. But definitely, man, the Red Sox, man, definitely Red. I think I'd say right now it's funny, right? Because it's an old school rivalry, Yankees and Red Sox. Those are probably my 2 favorites of winning this American League East, right? And you mentioned the Reds and the Mariners, right? Those are my 2 teams that I'm just waiting, Brian, for them to finally just wake up and be because they got the star caliber players, both of them. They have Julio Rodriguez and they have Ella De La Cruz. I don't think the Reds can.
And even Cincinnati's pitching is, Hunter Green, and if Lodolo and there's another guy there too in Cincinnati, but I think Francona is going to make a huge difference in that team.
I agree, absolutely. They can make a run for that division. I still think that possibly, and even though they lost Willie Adames and a few other players, but Milwaukee is still a worthy contender to still win that division. Of course, I mentioned the Cubs and everything, potentially winning that division as well. But definitely the Reds will be in that discussion. But yeah, the Mariners, man, they're a big question mark, right? Because they have all this talent and we're waiting for them to break out, right? We're waiting for them to break out and have that glorious, miraculous season. Could this be it? Who freaking knows? But
they need a hitter, man. They need somebody else in that lineup. That's their downfall. They just can't score. and that's why Julio Rodriguez needs a huge year. Yeah.
Yes, and the Texas Rangers too, man. A team to where I think that they can definitely win the AL West
easily.
When you look at that division, Houston, who've let go a lot of people outside of Jose Altuve. They're obviously not the same championship caliber team. Yes, they're still talented,
and they're still going to be there though. They'll be hanging
and they're
around.
still going to be there, absolutely. But there's no doubt in my mind they can win that division, the AL West, with everybody is healthy and coming back, especially Jacob deGrom, again, another former New York Met. And you mentioned, Ronald Acuna Jr. I know I'm going back over to Atlanta, a guy that I think who can win comeback player of the year because of how talented he is. It's either him or it's Jacob deGrom. If I had to put my money on anything, it's probably Ronald Acuna Jr. Again, of how, depending on where Jacob deGrom is going to be at beginning and middle of the season. But I think for Ronald Acuna Jr., it's more likely that you'll see him really have a breakout year coming back, being 100% healthy. But man, this is a really fun time of year, man. It'll be interesting to see.
Full of hopes and dreams.
Hopes and dreams.
Everybody's 0-0 right now.
Exactly. So opening day will pretty much be starting 3 hours from now with some opening day games. So hopefully everybody does enjoy opening day, and we'll see how it all freaking transpires once we get into October and beyond, going into playoff season. I'm sure on this very podcast we'll talk about in the near future as well. So, all right, man. Well, let's get into some actual pro wrestling itself now. AEW, right? So, Brian, I know you have some takes about AEW. I did not watch AEW Dynamite. I will save those discussions for this coming weekend's episode, as we have some other breaking news stories that one of them is involving AEW. But, Brian, I'll let you take the floor, man, because I know you were able to catch some things from AEW Dynamite last night. Just some of your takeaways, man, and just everything from AEW Dynamite as a whole. Floor is yours.
Yeah, let me. I'll start with Swerve and Moxley, and kind of mainly Swerve and Mox, but obviously the Death Riders, whatever. So Swerve. Well, it started out backstage. Hangman's going to cut a promo, and then Swerve's, because Hangman's out there talking about, I guess going for the title again, and so Swerve's interrupts, and it was kind of short and sweet, but man, please don't run this back, like. Hangman Adam Page, like I don't know what they're doing with him, but he just always seems to be there, just there.
Yeah. Right.
And that's no shade to him. Look, like, I mean, yes, he's a talented wrestler and whatever, but like, what are we doing, man? But anyway. So Mox and Swerve had a damn good promo, I think, in the middle of the ring, both of them. During the middle of the promo, kind of, Prince Nana's out there at ringside, and Claudio just kind of sneaks up behind him and just kind of, stands behind him. So, at first, he doesn't know, Swerve doesn't realize. Swerve kind of, slowly looks back and sees Claudio there, and, understands the situation that's happening. They go on to, say a few more things, and then Maria Shafir comes out, and right behind her, like, Willow Nightingale is on her ass. I'm liking this, man. I talked about, Swerve is going to need, if he's going up against Mox, the Death Riders, whatever, he needs somebody, right, to help him out. I mentioned the Hurt Syndicate. Maybe that's not it, but they need a female, fucking Willow Nightingale. And I hope they do kind of slow play this. Like I said, I had mentioned when we did the podcast with Holy Shit Podcast, like, we know we got this match coming up on April 6th, but I don't think Swerve should win that match. I think Mox should go over there. And again, you build this feud. You've now introduced kind of Willow as a backup to Swerve. And now in the next few weeks, even past April 6th, however that may play out, you need another guy or two to have Swerve's back here. And if they slow play it, like, maybe in a couple weeks, somebody else comes out, please do that. But I say all that to say, like, I had mentioned this before. I think Swerve is the guy to beat Mox for that title. I just don't think it should be April 6th right now, which is where we are in the storyline. So I hope we get there, but remains to be seen.
Right.
I want to talk about Rated FTR a little bit as they cut a backstage promo. Um, Admittedly, I've watched Dynamite far more regularly than I do Collision. FTR, I mean, they're one of my favorite tag teams ever. They're on Collision, seemingly 100%. Like I can't remember the last time I've seen them on Dynamite. Um, but there's this little, now tension between Cope and FTR, specifically concerning like I don't know. I guess Cash is kind of in the middle of, Dax wants to focus on tag team championships while, Cope and Cash are kind of like, hey, let's do the trios thing.
Mm.
I don't know where this ends. Like I can already say, I didn't even the little promo, just how it went down. If you go back and you see it, it just didn't hit. It was okay, but this is FTR and Cope, and I think it could be a lot better. So I see where this is going already, in which FTR is going to break up here sooner rather than later. I don't know the end game here, but the only way this is going to make sense or be, I don't know, kind of in any way really gratifying to me. Like, okay, if FTR is breaking up and whatever, maybe they do a little singles thing. You got Cope over there, who is gonna have his run-ins with Cage. Other than like this, a breakup or whatever for maybe a year down the road or 6 months or whatever, to have an FTR against Copeland and Cage as a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can get on board with something like that, but there's a lot of things that have to happen for you to get there. So that's and I don't trust AEW to do that. So yeah, I wish this could be better, but I think again, we've talked about this too, where they're just going to mesh a bunch of stories where it's, Cope going after the title and the trios titles, and you got Christian Cage there, and you got tension with FTR. It's just so much shit,
Yeah.
So that's my only drawback to it, but hopefully they can churn, chicken shit into chicken salad. So,
That's the
and
hope.
I'll close with Tony Storm, man. This woman, god damn it, she is a fucking gem. If the wrestling universe, I'm talking about all the wrestling universe, like we should be on bended knee to this woman, man. And if people are pulling apart what she's doing as something that's like wrong with wrestling or whatever, or it's dare I say, you don't know what fucking wrestling is, because that is professional wrestling, what she is doing. And it's fucking awesome, man. The promo between her and Thunder Rosa are back, with them, which she says, the first time ever, Thunder Rosa and tagging with Tony Storm, and this is Thunder Rosa talking, right?
Right.
And we are, and then Tony Storm just cuts in. She's like, Thunder Tits!
Thunder Tits.
And she's like, and Thunder Rosa's like, no, Thunderstorm. She's like, oh, I changed it. But just what she's doing, living that character, performing that character, and still having the wrestling matches to boot. God damn, man. And this is even, just something I think wrestling, I think the world fucking needs this. We have so many, and they've done so many different reality shows. You go back to like the Bella Twins or Toto Divas, or you talk now all the the Training Center and all these kinds of things, man. Tony Storm needs a goddamn 30-minute sitcom. Like, and I don't mean it like it, because when it gets oversaturated, people are going to turn on it quickly. So it can't be oversaturated. But man, I'm telling you, if she did even if it's out like a YouTube thing or whatever, like on her own, like if she did a thing like once a month where it's just like A Day in the Life of Tony Storm, and you got I want to call it Lawrence, but it's not Lawrence. The butler. It's not Lawrence. I can't think of his name.
I always forget his freaking name. Yeah,
yeah.
I forget. Yeah.
But anyway, just following him at Tony Storm to whatever. If she's acting like, oh, I'm on this movie set or whatever, but a 30-minute Day in the Life of Tony Storm. Oh God, it'd be so fucking entertaining, man. But I say all that to say, shout out to Tony Storm.
Luther's his name.
Luther.
Yes.
Luther.
There.
But man, if they did, and it doesn't even have to be 30 minutes, just a 15-minute, like once a month, like you give us Tony Storm in these little vignette, but extended vignettes, like that would be an entertaining as shit, man.
Yeah.
So I say that, just Tony Storm, I love you. God damn, I love you. You're such a breath of fresh air. Thank you, Tony Storm. And I'll leave that in. That's my thoughts on AEW this week.
No, good shit, man. Very good. And I'll save my thoughts as I haven't watched AEW Dynamite yet. But yes, shout out to Tony Storm, man. She's been killing it.
I'm sorry. So. Let me close with this, because if you saw the match, so it was a tag, Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm, obviously, against Megan Bayne and oh god damn it, Penelope Ford.
Okay,
yeah, Penelope Ford. I mean, just watching that match and a couple spots in that match, how they portrayed Megan Bayne against Tony Storm, and I won't give away the ending since you haven't seen it, but they're gonna build Megan Bayne to be that person to take the title from Tony Storm, and now it's just a matter of can Megan Bayne do it? Because they're going to push her. She's going to be the one for sure.
It's big shoes to fill, man. For somebody that really a lot of people in the wrestling world don't really know much about. So that's interesting, man. So yeah, I'll definitely give more of my thoughts about AEW Dynamite this weekend. And speaking of AEW, that's how we're going to go into our first big wrestling news story for this episode today. So I'm sure most of you guys know over the past 24 hours of what's transpired, at least in the AEW world. Saraya, however you want to pronounce her name.
Saraya, tomato.
Exactly.
Yes,
she has officially departed from AEW. She announced that on her podcast that she has departed from AEW and she is no longer a part of the AEW roster. She was also on Busted Open podcast talking about this departure, of course, asking if a potential return to WWE is possible. And she talks about how grateful she is for AEW and speaking very highly about Tony Khan and everything. And of course, she did, mention some stuff about WWE. She said, I would love to come back to WWE. I have no ill will against them. But she did talk about potentially, stepping away from professional wrestling. And that, Brian, doesn't really shock me to where, even though, listen, all of this that's gone on with Saraya, it really isn't a shock because, I mean, if you haven't been living under a rock, I mean, Saraya has kind of been pretty much irrelevant in regards to the AEW product as a whole. They had that whole Outcast trio with Tony and what was her freaking name? That third.
We haven't seen her in forever.
I'm forgetting her name. That's how long it's been, guys. It'll come to me. But anyway,
because she's from WWE too. God,
from WWE, yeah, from the Riot Squad, right? Who am I?
Ruby Soho.
Ruby Soho, yeah, exactly. Ruby Soho. Thank you, Brian. So yeah, like that whole trio that happened, and ever since that whole thing departed, Tony Storm, you talked about Tony Storm, she's rise to superstardom, and then Saraya's just been an afterthought, But the thing is, though, with her, man, she's dealt with a lot of nagging injuries, and not just nagging injuries, but a lot of major injuries, and you question to wherever she goes, like, number one, is her heart truly in this, right? Not saying like her love for professional wrestling as a whole, but going to another said company, like, is her heart solely into it to really put on really good matches and to get herself anywhere close to 100%? and, building and working with a women's division that you can put on a really good product with. So is that heart and fire still in her? Because lately when I see Saraya usually at all in AEW, it's no longer there anymore. I remember even I've even spoken about this in the past, where it doesn't seem like Saraya has this same fire and desire that she's once had in professional wrestling. And I'm sure a lot of it has to deal with those injuries and many other things.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Wherever she does go, number one, is she going to be anywhere close to where she used to be years ago? And B, does she still have that fire and passion? Is it still truly in her? Sure, she still loves pro wrestling, but is she going to have that same type of fire where she can uplift a women's division, or at least help it to a certain degree? So it's unfortunate, of course. You never want to see people, or leave a company or set or whatever the case may be. But I do think her taking a step back from pro wrestling is something that I think that she also needs, because it's funny she mentions that, because again, I've seen those little details in regards to some of her matches lately in AEW, at least the matches that she has been a part of. It just looks like that she just goes through the motions and just that fire is gone. And now here she is, she's saying potentially at least stepping away from pro wrestling. Now, not retiring, but stepping away from pro wrestling. And that doesn't shock me, man. I said it freaking back then, and now here we are. And this is what Saraya is telling you. So it's unfortunate, and wherever she does go, when she does decide to come back in the WWE world, where is she going to go to? And B, is she going to get the proper booking? And C, is she going to be the same of what she once was years ago? All of this kind of has to be discussed, unfortunately. But Brian, what are your takes, man, in regards to Saraya and her departure from AEW? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, unfortunate, I guess, maybe for her. Maybe it's best for her. I don't know, but not shocking, like you said. Yeah, I mean, she's been one of those wrestlers who, for me, especially within women's wrestling, right? Don't give me the cookie cutter, the Charlotte Flairs, even to a degree, the Trish Stratuses, back in their time, when it was Trish and Lita. I was 100% Lita, man. Trish, she's a legend, obviously, but, I'm just, a Tony Storm, a Saraya, give me that. Somebody out of the box that's not just your cookie cutter, Barbie doll, a pretty face, and whatever. She fucking had talent, and she could go, and the injuries, man. It's unfortunate. When she came back originally to AEW, I mean, I was excited as shit. And she had, some decent things, but it's never been. I don't know, I guess what wrestling fans would have hoped for, or even as good as it was at her heights in WWE. And a lot of that is due to injury. Look, and I don't blame her or any wrestler in there, or that's you could tell a difference where you're pulling up short a little bit because you're worried about the injury and taking care of your body, and rightly so. So it's and when you do things, of this nature, and you're not going 100 miles an hour, in the moment, then it doesn't look good. It's noticeable, that you're not going 100%, and you got to take extra time to set up moves and, all these things. So I say all that to say, could this be the end of her, in ring? Yeah, maybe. And if that is what it is, for the health of her body and her long term, then it is what it is. But I'd like to see her maybe return more, because even in this role, it seemed like, they brought her back and she was okay. I'm a wrestler, and then it kind of transitioned to I'm kind of a wrestler, but I'm also more of a manager now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she comes back in like some, a talking role or a managerial role or whatever.
Like a general manager in a way.
Yeah, or something like that.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that would
mean,
be a
I'm
really good
sure.
fit for her. I really do,
Yeah,
actually, because again, like if like I mean, because let's be honest, I mean, if we've seen Saraya in the ring over the last several months when she was in AEW performing matches, she's not the same. She's just not like if
yeah,
to where her heart is just her heart and her desire is just not in it because of all of the injuries and all of the rehabilitation that she's had to go through. It's just
sure.
she's not the same the when she used to when she was coming onto the scene in professional wrestling. She's just not.
Yeah,
And if she does want to be a part of, the wrestling world and to be a part of a wrestling business and production, and if you want to put her on television, I do think in whether it is a managerial role, they try to have her do that with Asuka and somebody
yeah,
else. I think it was
yep. I remember
Kairi
that.
Sane, the
Yep,
Kabuki
yep.
Warriors or whatever. They try to have her do that. I think a general manager role. I mean, we've seen Sonya Deville when Sonya Deville
Hmm.
when she was kind of like trying to get her bearings in order with her wrestling, she took part in a executive, television role along with
Yeah,
Adam Pearce, right? And I think that same type of role can really benefit, Saraya to where like she could still rock out in
she has a
regards to
lot to
putting on a
offer the
good
wrestling
performance.
business for sure.
She has a lot
Yeah,
to offer. And I think, in regards to maybe not perform in the ring, but if you want to do the little things like be a general manager, be, or at least just somebody behind the scenes where you can work and develop a women's division to kind of help them and prompt them up to be the best of their ability. Not saying majority of them need it, but it's a good helping hand in regards to that, right? So there's always some things that Saraya can do to be a part of a
hmm,
wrestling promotion and to be a helping hand. But as a full-time wrestler, I just think those days are done, man. I just haven't seen
yeah,
enough where like, Saraya can make a big, huge comeback. I'm sorry, man. I just haven't seen it. And until something changes, then that's just what the narrative is, unfortunately. But much love
yeah.
to her. Hopefully
Absolutely. Thanks for
whatever.
the memories and best
Yeah,
wishes to her. Absolutely. Yeah.
best wishes to her.
Hope we see you
Hopefully
again down the road somewhere.
absolutely. We do hope as fans that she does come back to pro wrestling and she does find that fire and desire to come back and to really kick things into high gear. But trust me, if your heart is not fully in it, if there's something missing in regards to you really trying to develop a motivation to be like, all right, now's the time to come back,
Yeah.
just stay away, man. You're better
That you
off
need to
getting your
go
bearings in
because
order.
yeah, if you're in the ring and your heart's not in it, not only is it bode well for you, that's disrespectful to the
Absolutely.
opponent and very dangerous for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm sure she knows that as well. So for her to take
Yeah,
this at least
absolutely.
this time off or this step away from pro wrestling, I do think it is a good decision, at least from what I've seen on her part as well. But yeah, much well wishes to her and wherever she
Hmm.
goes. And we do hope that she does come back in pro wrestling, but when she is 100% motivated and really just creating back a spark within trying to put on good production and good quality television. So, but
Yeah.
much love to her. Hopefully, she heals up. She, battles whatever she is battling. And, it sucks for her to have this departure. But, all we can do is give her the well wishes and see what the future has in store for her moving forward. So much love to
Hmm.
Saraya, whatever you want to be called. Anyway, let's get to another news story, man. And this is a doozy. Gail Kim. I'm sure most of you guys know who have been watching pro wrestling a time
Yeah.
or two. You guys know Gail Kim from her WWE days, the same woman that eliminated herself in a battle royal because of her relationship with Vince McMahon and
Stand on
other
business.
executives.
Stand on business.
That
I
was the
love you for
last
it.
time.
Yep.
That was the last time you ever saw Gail Kim in a WWE ring. She legit, guys, eliminated herself in a battle royal, and she was fucking done, man.
God.
So if you want to talk about a very independent woman, she's it, man. She's that in spades. And she's been doing her thing in TNA. She has been one of the head talent relations of TNA, but recently, just 24 hours ago, she has been fired from TNA, along with some other executive producers and creatives. I'm gonna botch this person's name, but Ariel Chenier, who was another executive producer who was also fired and let go. Scott D'Amore, who was now a former executive vice president of TNA, was let go just a couple months ago. you see a bit of a pattern
And
here.
really the guy that's kind of given that place lifeblood, really, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tim Silva, who is pretty much now the new TNA president, guy running everything, the head honcho, or at least one of the head honchos of TNA, who has pretty much a helping hand in regards to these firings and everything that's going on in TNA. But I mean, Brian, you can kind of see the pattern, right? This is the same type of pattern that we have seen with WWE, right? When people were kind of trying to be oblivious and say, "Oh, WWE will never go, will never be sold. They'll never try to sell or whatever." And then boom, a couple months later, you hear all this partnership with TKO and then being sold and everything. And now this is the same process that TNA is going through right now. And I've even said it, Brian, too, from the jump. This partnership with WWE, I've always noticed that it's always been very one-sided. And it's not just like the transitions of pro wrestlers and anything like that, but the business side of things, it always felt just like a one-sided relationship. And I mean, to be blunt, I mean, TNA has pretty much always been WWE's bitch at this frickin' point. And this is honestly kind of very obvious that TNA is going in a 180 in a different direction, that they're pretty much going to be selling, right? And now it's, people are, and of course they're not going to tell you that they're selling. They're going to say, "Oh,
right.
we're making
we're reorganizing.
corporate changes." Yes, exactly. We're organizing. We're making corporate changes. No, bro.
What is Elon Musk doing? What he's finding the wasteful money, is he? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Like, they're not going to actually tell you that you're selling, but give it time, guys. Like, don't be shocked that TNA in a couple months will probably be sold. Now, and you can see, like, again, the writing's on the wall. They're trying to sexy themselves up for potential buyers in the future, right? So, and of course, TNA talents, I got to give them a shout out because they are pissed at all of this, right? Obviously, Scott was something to be, I guess, to be questioning, like, what's going on here? Like,
right.
Our executive vice president was just fired within the snap of a finger. But now Gail
and
Kim,
by seemingly all accounts, I mean, this is just, I don't follow it that heavily, but kind of like beloved by the wrestlers themselves, like, am I wrong in that? Like, yeah, I mean, Scott D'Amore, respected and trying to run that company, and like, more of a guy for the wrestlers as opposed to the guy for the corporation.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that makes sense.
And there's and Gail Kim, who has a lot to do with TNA's women's division over the past several years, right? When Jordan Grace was there and many other people who were there, she's had a helping hand in that, and she's developed a lot of really good relationships and a lot of respect in that TNA locker room. And if you guys are on social media, you guys can come across a lot of TNA wrestlers that are not happy with this decision. There's people saying, like, what the fuck are we doing? Gail Kim is a trailblazer. Why would you do this? What are we doing, TNA? So a lot of talents are not happy right now. Yes, mainly the women, but also you would think if it's from the women, you got to know that from the men's side of things, they feel
and D'Amore or however, D'Amore or however. Yeah, I mean, from a few months ago, that was, I mean, they were up in arms about that, just like, what the fuck?
Exactly, right. So now so it's pretty evident now that we can come to a conclusion that TNA is going to be selling, or is at least as of right now in the process of selling. They won't tell you that, but they're in the process of that. And in the future, they're most likely going to be sold. Now, the question is now who is going to buy it? Obviously, the upfront favorite is probably WWE. And, that's what I'm dreading, Brian, is that now we're going to monopolize all of these other talents that are going to come on board that were from the TNA product. And we're just going to add more and more talent and maybe more and more shows. And we're going to monopolize everything. And it's going to continue to be a mess under Triple H's creative production, right? Like, it's going to be a fucking mess, right? And also there's another, I guess you could say it's also speculation, right? To where AEW, right? Even back in 2018, TNA was very close to being sold by Tony Khan and AEW back in 2018. So you can't really rule out AEW, at least in regards to this circumstance. But even from AEW standpoint too, like they haven't been very consistent to where they're now going to monopolize more talent. I mean, even
And
in
you already
ROH,
they already got Ring of, you're right, Ring of Honor, right?
ROH Ring of Honor, and now you're just going to bring in TNA. So, like, how good of a production wise is that relationship going to be truly? So, most likely it's going to be WWE because they already have this partnership. They're already, again, they're TNA's, they're WWE's bitch at this point, right? Like it's obvious that this has been a one-sided relationship. I've said it from the freaking jump. So most likely, yes, it's going to be WWE. But Brian, I have a wild take, man. This is going to drive people up a wall here, right? You can't rule out another specific person that could potentially buy TNA. I know you were going this, guys. I know. Do I have my drum roll? I'm going to do a drum roll. Ready, guys? The potential candidate for TNA Pro Wrestling. Drum roll, please. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. That's right. Vincent Kennedy McMahon, guys. I'm telling you, I know it sounds fucking crazy. I know it sounds wild. but if you guys don't think that Vince McMahon knows anything about this situation, you're fucking delusional. You don't know Vince McMahon, bro. Vince McMahon, whether it is the XFL, whether it is movies, any type of entertainment, Vince McMahon, guys, is going to come back, and he's going to come back with a vengeance. If you don't think that Vince McMahon knows anything about this, or at least a realistic option for TNA to be a part of this situation, right? Like, guys, it can happen, bro. It really can happen. And guess what? Vince McMahon will lose absolutely nothing, right? He doesn't even have to make it into another WWE situation, right? And to where, he has his relationship with Nick Khan. Like, that's an extended family to Vince McMahon, right? TKO, obviously, they've wiped their hands clean with Vince McMahon. But since it's TNA, it's just
like neither is TKO. I mean, I'm sorry, like, and not that they're calling each other every day or best friends or whatever, but you're going to tell me The Rock doesn't or has had no communication with Vince McMahon over the past number of years? Bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit.
Bullshit, bro. I'm telling you, man. Like, it's only a matter of time in the future. And I'm not saying that this is the likeliest of outcomes to where it's probably just going to be WWE that buys TNA in the future. But guys, don't be shocked and don't let it be out of the ordinary that it can be Vincent Kennedy McMahon that buys TNA wrestling in the future. I'm telling you, bro, it may sound fucking wild right now, but come back to this very episode, come back to this quote, and then meet me in the next couple of months of where we're at in the future. I'm telling you, man, it's not out of the ordinary. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's a possibility, man. Vince McMahon is going to come back, whether it's the XFL, whether it's any type of entertainment industry. Vince McMahon is going to come back. The question is where is he going to put his ducks in a row, and how is he going to do it? That's the question, man. I know I just painted a really bad, really crazy image in a lot of people's heads as I put a post about that on our Instagram stories as well as on our TikTok, so you guys can go check out that as well. But I'm telling you, man, if you don't think Vince McMahon knows anything about stuff of what's going on with TNA, going on with this partnership, and a lot of people that are in his ear, maybe people like The Rock and people like Nick Khan, right? Those are extended family to people like Vince McMahon. If you don't think that he knows anything about this, man, you don't know Vince McMahon, dude. You just don't. I'm telling you, man, it's not out of the ordinary if it happens, and I'll leave it at that. So yes, we haven't even talked about freaking Monday Night Raw yet, and I'm already dropping freaking, I guess you could say a pipe bomb, a CM Punk pipe bomb, right? So that is all of our wrestling breaking news stories. Of course, we'll see where everything goes with Saraya, of course, this whole situation with TNA, and, we'll see where everything goes in the near future. But before we get to Monday Night Raw, I want to talk just a little bit about NXT. And again, I'll try to keep this brief, as I was able to catch a little bit of it this past Tuesday. Stephanie Vaquer defending not just her NXT championship, but her NXT North American championship. Also defending it both times. Both matches, she defended both championships. One to Fallon Henley for the North American title, and then the other to Jada Parker for the NXT Women's Championship. Jada Parker, as much as you guys know, I'm very high on Jada Parker. The matchup overall was not the greatest. There's still areas of Jada Parker's game, at least in her wrestling, that she needs to improve. Not saying that she needs to be like a Kalani Jordan or whatever, because that's not her style. But she still checks off so many other boxes. It wasn't her time this past Tuesday, but it will be Jada Parker's time in the near future. So I have no issues with her losing this match. And of course, was it Jordan Grace that kind of came out and was a little bit of a distraction that kind of cost Jada Parker the matchup. And then you had Stephanie Vacuor beat Valen Henley. So they're really putting all this stock into Stephanie Vacuor being the gal in NXT right now, along, of course, with Jordan Grace and, of course, Jada Parker, who's now in this main event title picture now at this point. But I want to get to a specific segment in this show, and that involves Ricky Saints. Of course, you guys know as Ricky Starks, who is now part of WWE's NXT brand. He was in this really good sit-down interview with Vic Joseph, kind of like the same role that Michael Cole would be in a backstage interview or vignette or whatever. And I thought this was really good, man. So where you got to know more about Ricky Saints. If you don't know much about the dude, it's like you got to know more about his motives and who he is. And what he's doing here. It's like people call him an outsider, right? People kind of look at him a certain different way. And he kind of got into depth. Let's just people, say that you shouldn't belong here. Like, what's keeping your confidence up? It's just like, I'm just a really confident dude. I know what I have. I know what I walk into a certain room with a certain type of swagger, right? And this is, and he also talks about his upbringing, right? So we're going into pro wrestling. I didn't have much. I was living in my car, right? I didn't know what I was going to wear or eat the next day, right? And this is a real life stuff. He's mentioned this stuff, of course, in many other platforms, but never in a WWE or wrestling production. So I like that, man. It gives you more of a reason to be behind or to understand why Ricky Saints is here, right? To understand of who he is and to connect with him, right? Instead of just being a guy just going around backstage and okay, why should I care about this dude? Because you see every week to where this kind of connects to where it's confidence, it kills people, right? People don't like confident people, especially for the stature of Ricky Saints, right? He's not that big of a dude. So when you see this dude prancing around backstage with his head up high and he's wearing all this fancy stuff or whatever, people are like, who the fuck is this dude, right? So this little interview, it makes sense, and it kind of connects to everything of what Ricky Saints' mannerisms have been. So I like that. Sean Spears comes in and he interrupts this interview, and this was really, really good, man. Just really, this back and forth was really good. Sean Spears' cronies, I'm forgetting their names, my apologies, but they come in and the segment ends to where, Sean Spears is like, oh, listen, keep in mind, if things don't work out here, then you could just go back to, oh, wait a minute. We all know that you've burnt every single bridge now, don't we? Of course, referencing AEW. And Ricky Saints was cool. It's just like, well, I guess I better win, huh? As frickin' Sean Spears is walking away. So I thought everything about this was just really damn good, man. Sean Spears played his role really well. You got to know about Ricky Saints a little bit more about his character and his motives and why he's here, a little bit about his background. So I thought this accomplished a lot, not just for me in liking it, but this segment accomplished a lot, and potentially Ricky Saints is going to be the guy that's going to take that potentially in the near future, that NXT North American Championship, away from him. So I really like that, man. Everything about this segment was so damn good. Not really like a vignette type of style, but it was like a backstage, secluded, area for an interview or segment or whatever. But really, really good stuff from both individuals, man. Really, really good stuff. You have still this new faction. I believe they're called Dark State. I believe that's the name of this new faction in NXT. Guys, it's so goofy, man. I'm sorry. This might be one of the worst gimmicks or worst shticks I've ever seen. Probably since Retribution. Thunder Tits, right? That might be better, honestly.
Right?
Yeah, man. It comes off so freaking weird. And I guess what? They could go in a direction to where Trick is slowly changing his persona and his character to where he's now more like more nastier, more like mean and aggressive, to where is Trick, I guess, part of what this dark state is doing, taking everybody out backstage, people like Tony D'Angelo and everything. And then you have Javon Evans and Obafemi. They're also butting heads. It's a very, I don't know, man. It's just this whole shtick with Dark State. I mean, I've even looked around the pro wrestling world, the pro wrestling fans. Like, people are just not buying into this shtick, man. It's just it comes across really silly and everything. And it's just not clicking. It's just not meshing with a lot of people is all I can really say.
Yeah.
But, so that's all I got really for NXT. Just want to mention that, at least like the good and the bad, at least from NXT. But again, really good stuff from Ricky Saints and Sean Spears. And this faction, man, it's fucking weird. It's really weird, bro.
Drizzling shit.
There we go. So yeah, if you remember Retribution days, man, you guys know where I'm coming from. It's just a really silly look, and I don't know how far they can go with it. I appreciate that them trying to make it work and make them badass and take out some people backstage and do their thing, but it just comes across really silly, man. And I don't know how far you can keep going with this at this point. And if you watch NXT, you guys know what I'm talking about. But enough of NXT. Let's finally get into some Monday Night Raw. And we just have a couple takeaways here. We ended with John Cena last week, so it's only fitting that we start off with John Cena. So John Cena comes out. They were in Glasgow, Scotland for Monday Night Raw this past Monday. John Cena, he talks about the spinner belts, right, and how he invented the spinner belt and everything, and how he's going to win that championship at WrestleMania. He's going to take his ball. He's going to retire, and he's going to leave with it, and he's going to be the last real champion in WWE. And he's going to ruin pro wrestling. This is mission to ruin pro wrestling. Also, some more digs to the crowd and everything. So it was a really, really, really good stuff from Cena once again. And then Cody comes out. They have this altercation. And once again, John Cena walks up the rampway. And that was pretty much your segment. So once again, I love the no physicality, right? Like, a good heel, right? I had mentioned this when I was watching this live. I'm like, John, please just walk away. Don't, because they were about to start a brawl, right? To where John, he was like, they want him to fight and whatever, and he just walks away, right? And it's just like, if this was a Triple H production, they would have just freaking brawled. That's when it's freaking Rock and everyone else that's behind the scenes doing this, because John Cena walking away, that's a perfect way for a heel to walk away and do absolutely nothing. So I really like this segment. I thought the zingers and stuff from Cena was actually better than last week. I really like where this is going. And there's a lot of mixed, a mixed bag about The Rock, right? Like, oh, The Rock is not part of this. Like, where's The Rock? What are we doing with The Rock? And I understand that. But here's the thing, guys. You're probably not going to see The Rock until WrestleMania, or possibly the week of WrestleMania, most likely.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But it's still working to a degree. But Cena's been killing it. Again, he's right now carrying the build of WrestleMania on his shoulders right now. Heel John Cena. Never thought that would ever be the case. But Brian, any takeaways from the start of the show with Cena and Cody?
That's the same, man. I can't believe I'm sitting here in 2025, man, because even when he mentions the spinner belt, I was that guy that fucking hated it. Like, what the fuck is this bullshit? The fuck? But, dude, he's going to win at Mania. He's bringing back the goddamn spinner belt. And now in 2025, I'm going to fucking love it. It's so – that's the beauty of professional wrestling, man.
Yeah.
Because, God, he's got to. Now that he mentioned it, like, oh, God, he's got to bring back that title. He's got to.
Right. Yeah.
Man. So, yeah, I say all that everything he did as a heel, man, he is carrying this shit right now, and I like the direction it's going.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But then we get to the rest of the show, which is just an absolute clusterfuck of a situation. Let's get into Jey Uso. I guess we'll go into him, right? So now, they're going in a different direction, Brian, with the story. Where after the botch that happened from, Jey Uso jumping over the top rope and him landing back first on the apron. So now they're trying to spin it in a way to where Jey Uso is kind of like losing his confidence. Woe is me. I'm just down
so
on
was
my
Gunther
luck.
just not too long ago. What do you know?
So was Gunther.
Fuck!
Right, exactly. No, not too long ago, it was Gunther.
Right.
And now that, Jimmy Uso, I guess, is playing a certain role in all of this now, as he was the mystery partner alongside Grayson and Austin Theory. So, I mean, listen, listen, outside of like the story, right? I actually like, after what happened last week with the botch and all the backlash from that, I thought booking wise, putting him with Jimmy Uso, I thought was a good way to kind of like revamp Jey Uso once again, to have a good working relationship. Well, not a working relationship, but to work with his brother and to kind of kick things back into high gear with that. But the booking-wise, the story-wise doesn't still make sense, to where this is the same guy, Jey Uso, that just took out everybody not too long ago. I'm talking Gunther, Grayson, and Austin Theory. And now he needs a mystery partner to take out Grayson.
He had a botched move, and now he...
Right.
What?
Yeah, it's like he took out everybody, right? He was Super Jey, like he was Super Jey Uso, right? Superman. And now he needs his brother, a mystery partner, to take out Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. He just took them out separately on his own. So why would he need a partner? This is the booking, man, that doesn't make any fucking sense. So now he's going to be this guy to where he's down on his luck. He's woe is me. He can't jump over the top rope. He did this spot to where he tried to go for a spear. When Gunther got involved, he once again attacked from behind because that's all they have. Gunther attacks Jey from behind, then Jey Uso tries to set up a spear, and he trips, right? Obviously, it was part of the segment to where he trips and falls. It's like, because he's botching all over the place. So they're using that botch from last week, and they're trying to play it off again for this week. So let me get this straight. So Jey Uso is going to go from he can't jump over the top rope, he can't deliver a spear, but all of a sudden, at WrestleMania, he's just going to beat the world champion like he's Rudy, like he's the final, like on the final play, that the only play that he's a part of, and he's going to sack the quarterback, and Jey Uso's going to pin Gunther, he's going to win the championship when he can't even deliver a spear and he can't jump over a top rope. What the fuck, man? It's everything, guys. This entire story, Brian, is DOA. It's dead on arrival at this point, man. So I don't know what your thoughts are, man, but what are your thoughts on this whole story with Jey Uso and Gunther?
This is what kind of we've been talking about for the past, month or so. And, haters on the internet, you're going to hate. But, man, listen, like, Jey Uso, he's going to be a transitional champion. I couldn't believe, I was shocked that they, the mystery partner, and it was Jimmy. Mm-hmm. Like, we all know that eventually, yes, the Usos are going to get back together and have a tag run. That's wrestling 101. That's going to happen. But for them to do this now, before Jey even wins the title, and now you're bringing Jimmy back, to the, bro, transitional champion. He'll have this for 3 months, whatever. Usos are coming back sooner than even I thought, maybe. And that's fuck this whole, and it's not that Jey can't do it or Jimmy can't do it. No, this is the fucking story. Both Gunther and Jey, and building this whole thing on the back of Yeet. This is fucked. It is fucked, man.
It really is, man. It really, really is.
Yeah. Really that mystery partner, and they brought Jimmy. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. Like,
you knew it was coming, dude.
No, I really did not think it was. Not right now. I didn't think it was going to be Jimmy. I'm shocked that it was like I'm saying, like you're trying to get Jey to the world title, and he's going to win. But you're already reintroducing the tag team, and Jesus Christ, man, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, I knew from the jump it was going to be Jimmy, and that was good. That was like the safe booking option was to go with Jimmy, right? Because there's no brand split. Because technically, Jimmy, I guess, is a part of SmackDown. Who the fuck knows? We don't know if there's even a brand split at this point.
He's supposed to be. I mean, yeah,
supposed to be, yeah. So yeah, like you said, man, it's fucked. This entire situation, this story is absolutely fucked. Without because we all wanted to yeet, right? We all wanted to yeet in unison, right? And Triple H wants to cater to all the yeeters, right? I guess whatever the fuck you want to call these people. Now this whole entire situation's fucked to where it was a botch having Jey Uso win this freaking Rumble, and now here you are. You hear all this backlash now, Brian. Now there's a lot of wrestling fans, including people that were first into Jey Uso.
We told you so, man.
Rumble.
We told you so.
We told you this
yeet
from
is
the
going to
jump,
run its
man.
course, man.
And now people are like, man, this is not going the way that I thought it was going to go. You fucking think, bro? You think? It's just like, at least people, Brian, are finally waking up to where you hear a lot of people now are very outspoken about this storyline, this situation with Gunther and Jey Uso. And they're thinking like, yeah, maybe this wasn't the best way to go. Really? You really think so now? But at least you finally woken up. So thank you, thank you to everybody who is finally at least waking up and understanding the situation that this shit is fucked. It's fucked.
And not to mention, you have, and again, I can't stress this enough. You have the world title holder and the number one contender, both who in the last 4 months have question. They're like, oh, do I have what it takes? Am I? Both of them, and it's your champion and your number one contender.
Exactly. Yeah. Next takeaway, man. Let's get into the ladies again, man. So frickin' you have again, it's Iyo, it's Rhea, it's Bianca. So they were in this segment to where everybody comes out, they interrupt Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce makes a matchup to where next week it's going to be Iyo Sky and Rhea for the championship once again. And Bianca Belair is your special guest referee. Guys, what the fuck are we doing? Guys, this should be just
setting up for the triple threat at Mania. That's what we're doing.
Like, guys, I don't understand why we continue to complicate the situation, right? You have somebody win a Royal Rumble or a Chamber, right? Bianca, in this case, won the Chamber. You set her up with the champion to create a badass feud for the next several weeks till WrestleMania. Guys, it's not that fucking hard. But guess what? You wanted to insert Iyo Sky, have Iyo Sky win the championship, and just like the Jey Uso situation, Brian, everything is also fucked too. Nothing makes sense.
And the champion is getting pushed to the side and completely fucking. Yeah. I mean, and now to the point where, like, again, like you just said with, how WWE is like playing off Jey Uso's botch or whatever, Mm-hmm. I don't give a fuck what creative says for WWE. Initially, when they were, just pushing Iyo back to the side, like, maybe it was scripted a little bit, but now they're leaning into it like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. And it's, God, she's your fucking champion, man. And Jesus Christ, dude. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Yeah, it's all again just to still get us to a triple. And then afterwards, right? Then they all just like going. I guess it's like a brawl segment where everybody just brawls and they exchange maneuvers. I guess to give you a little bit of a hint of what could possibly transpire for WrestleMania when all of these ladies are in a triple threat. That's pretty much what they're doing. It just came across just really. It's kind of awkward and just bad. It was just so bad. The booking is just so bad, man. All three of them, by the way, guys, are still faces. And also people are also outspoken about Rhea's shtick last week to where she just signs her name on a contract that's already signed because she comes off as this whiny, just complaining, I'm down on my, maybe not down on my luck, but just like, oh, I'm not getting my way.
I was distracted. And like, if you go back to it, like, okay, you were distracted, but Bianca did not interfere. Like, that was just a clean L. Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's just, guys, it's a mess, bro. To where, like, now Rhea's got to play, a tweener shtick now? To where, like, oh, it's like, this isn't fair. I need to get my title match back, but yet she's still a face. And you have Bianca, who's a face. Iyo Sky is a face. You're already splitting your audience at this point. Guys, this is what I mean about this. It's like, if you're wondering that this doesn't make sense, you're right. It doesn't make sense. Welcome to Triple H's booking, where nothing fucking makes sense at all. But let's move on, man. My head's gonna start pounding if I keep.
Well, I'll close with this saying at this point, go ahead. I mean, I still think Bianca is gonna come out the winner here, but I just purely for spite.
Possibly.
For my point, like I wanted to be Iyo just for spite. Like, man, don't do this shit. God damn it, have Iyo win it, man. Fuck y'all.
Bianca is she is technically undefeated at WrestleMania. I can kind of see her continuing this streak to where she's 4-0 at Mania, and then she's now gonna be 5-0, and she's gonna win that championship. And she's going to take that title.
Bianca. Yeah.
And she's going to take that title and maybe progress something with Jade Cargill when they maybe butt heads in the future too, when she's done with Naomi, I guess. But guys, it's a mess, bro. It's just like you take something that can just be so simplistic and good, right? Somebody wins a chamber, you have your champion, start a badass feud, but now you just overcomplicate. You just completely fuck this entire situation to where nothing makes sense at all, to where you have three baby faces. All three of them in a fucking matchup. Oh my God. Anyway, and you want to hear something that's more fucked. You have another triple threat on the men's side of things, right? To where you have CM Punk, who's trying to sell this triple threat matchup. He talks about a contract signing for this coming Friday on SmackDown. Guys, a contract signing, a triple threat, a contract signing for a triple threat with no title.
How do you think this is going to end? How do you think that segment's going to end?
Everybody brawling, right? But guys, like, why do we need to see a triple threat, or why do we need to see a contract signing for a triple threat with nothing on the line? Well, why do we need to see that televised? What the fuck? Like, you could have.
So we can have a brawl segment. I mean, we got to get to the brawl segment, James.
I mean, we got to fill up the show somehow. Well, yeah, let's just keep putting fucking brawls into the show, guys. This creative is so fucking inept. It is not even funny anymore, bro. It really isn't. Like, why do you need a contract signing for a triple threat match with nothing on the line? If you're going to have a contract, guys, James, you don't need to have a triple threat you don't need to have something on the line to have a triple threat, James. Yes, you fucking do. Because then now you're just convoluting everything to where you're throwing random people in separate feuds into one match, and it doesn't make sense. And again, guys, they're all baby faces. Seth, Roman, Punk, they're all baby faces. You're already splitting your audience already. It doesn't make sense. If you're going to do a contract signing, guys, something needs to be on the line, or it's a one-on-one feud that has massive,
implications or meaning.
Meaning, right? Like that type of contract signing. This is just a random triple threat. Why do we need to see something signed on a dotted line? Right, guys, fucking cry. Any takeaways, Brian, from that? From Punk's promo?
No, I mean, Punk as usual. I mean, he delivers on the microphone. I mean, it was all right, but yeah, I mean, the story is. The story here for me is I'm just waiting to see what Paul Heyman does here. I mean, that's my payoff here. But other than that, no, this is garbage.
Yeah, exactly, man. People say like, oh, it's just like you don't need to have something on the line for a triple threat, and oh, it's just like games. They all have history with one another. They all can't stand one another, guys. Like, if we just go across storylines because they have history with one another, then we never need to be creative with the storyline ever again, because we continue to recycle matchups. So with that type of common sense and logic, everybody has history with everybody, right? It's just like, oh, this person has history with that person.
I mean, there's only one world champion, so technically isn't everybody like that's what everybody's trying to get to, right? So yeah, you have
it's just like God, it's just so weird how we want to also say, oh, but there's history here and there's history here. It's just like, guys, like, okay, we can't just rest on the fact that there's history, right? We can go across.
Hey, they were in a segment together 15 years ago, God.
Oh, yeah, like 10 plus years ago, they were in a segment and they did this, and it's going to be long-term storytelling, right? Because we went back 15 plus fucking years. Get the fuck out of here.
Because that's it. They planted the seed 15 years ago. This was always the plan, that Punk was going to leave wrestling and go to It's always the plan.
God, man, Jesus Christ, I fucking can't, man. Yeah, we're just gonna keep resting on history, man, and that's all we rest on, and we're never have to create badass storylines and organic storylines ever again, because we could just rewrite history and say that it's long-term storytelling. Oh, fucking A, man. Anyway, just enough of that shit. Moving on. Let me get to this. Will be quick and brief. Lyra Valkyria, her championship. WWE, tell me you still have nothing for her championship for WrestleMania without fucking telling me you don't. Where freaking you have this matchup with with Raquel, freaking Liv comes out after the matchup, starts beating up Lyra, and then Bayley comes in for the saves. She gives, it's like, like the veteran, the champion, right? That's Lyra, but the veteran, that's Bayley. She's like, here's your champion. Good, gives her a good old pat on the back, right? She's like, thanks for having my back, pal. And then they stand in unison, right? To where you probably could see a tag team match in the future with all of these 4 ladies and individuals. But guys, once again, what did this accomplish for Lyra's championship? The answer is nothing, guys. We're now 3 weeks away from WrestleMania, and guys, there's nothing for Lyra's championship. There's nothing for Chelsea Green's women's United States championship. There's nothing for Hart. Well, we know what's coming for Bron Breakker. We'll get to that. LA Knight's United States championship. What are we doing with his championship? Guys, these are all stuff that we need to start asking ourselves and calling out, to where, yes, it's going to be random people in triple threats, and it's a fucking mess because it's a day-by-day operation. If you guys really think that Triple H and other executives, right, think of this stuff long-term in advance, then the proof is in the pudding. This is a day-by-day operation. You should already have a plan for LA Knight. You should already have a plan for Lyra Valkyrie in her championship. And they keep showing you with their actions that they have nothing creatively. Absolutely nothing. Brian, any takes before we get to the main event of this show?
I mean, both with the Intercontinental and U.S. title. I mean, I could easily see both of those being some kind of triple threat or fatal 4-way, for the simple fact that neither title holder has any type of meaningful feud with an individual. So you're either going to leave the titles off of Mania and not have a match, or you're going to throw at least 2 people and have a triple threat and see how that fucking turns out. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
man. And if you think that's a mess, the IC title situation is even more of a mess, man. Where the main event was Bron Breakker versus Penta for the IC title. Guys, this what the fuck is this booking? This company is so ass backwards, right? And listen, I get it, right? So you're trying to portray this is what makes no fucking sense, Brian. You're trying to portray Bron Breakker as a face, right? We've noticed that, right? It's like the crowd, they're barking along Bron Breakker, right? You're trying, his mannerisms and his actions are more face, right? Yep. And your booking decision is to put him in a match with another face who just came on to the WWE scene. And you're going to put him
trying to heavily push as a
face. Yes. But let's put him in with the champion who we're also trying to push as a face. Guys, what the fuck are we doing? This doesn't make sense. So you're splitting your audience. It's doing nothing for Bron Breakker, who is trying, I guess, to be a face, to where you already have a bona fide face in Penta who just got here. It's not benefiting, guys, anybody. And it's doing what? All of this is for what? To do a multi-person match to where you had the Judgment Day come out and, I think it was a DQ finish, I believe, to where Penta,
DQ finish.
It was a DQ finish, and then the Judgment Day comes out, Carlito, Dom, and Finn, and, there's this now, I guess, miscommunication, and there's this friction with Dom and with Finn, to where Dom is trying to recruit Penta to the Judgment Day, and Finn doesn't want any new members. So there's this friction there. And then, he handed a steel chair to Penta to hit Bron Breakker over the head with it, to no avail. Penta just turns on Dom, but then Judgment Day just stands tall when the show ends anyway. And guys, we know where this is going. It's going to be Bron Breakker. It's going to be Penta. It's going to be Finn Balor, and it's going to be Dominic Mysterio. All 4 of these individuals in a fatal 4-way match, because we have nothing for this IC title. It started off with Bron Breakker and Styles when Bron Breakker was the bona fide heel. Then we switched that over to Finn Balor, and now Breakker is now more of a face. We switched that over to Penta. We switched that over to Dominic, and now we're just going to cluster everybody in this match. Guys, this is not, guys, I'm not just being negative for the sake of being negative. This is the booking, guys. I'm just being honest with you. This is what's going on here, and it makes no sense. It doesn't make sense for Bron Breakker. It makes no sense for Penta. to cluster everybody into one match. It's doing nothing for anybody, and it's doing nothing for that fucking championship. You want to know a fact too, Brian, by the way, and I'll send this off to you. Finn Balor, who had a IC title match, I believe, too, not too long ago, too. I believe he also was in a matchup with Bron Breakker not too long ago. Do you guys know that since 2023, Finn Balor has had only 2 singles victories since 2023?
Damn, really?
Isn't that fucking wild, right? I mean, it actually, when you think about it, right, because he's been with the Judgment Day for so long.
That seems almost like fucking impossible. Like only
it's
2?
It's Finn Balor, right? And yet he, with that type of, with those facts, he's still got an IC title opportunity. He's got 2 singles victories, and he's getting a singles IC title matchup. And then here he is. He's going to get another opportunity for WrestleMania. Guys, nothing of how you're getting to this moment, how you're booking these stars, how they come across. We don't know if they're face or heels. You're splitting your audience. It's a fucking mess. Outside of John Cena, this entire production as a whole is a fucking clusterfuck. And that's all I have, man. Brian, any takeaways on this main event? Bron Breakker, Penta, the Judgment Day. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I've been waiting for, is just kind of to see how this shakes out, to who are going to be the opponents in this fatal 4-way. Because I mentioned AJ Styles was a possibility, just a month ago.
Yeah.
So about this match, overall, and I don't know. But also, because there's another guy that I've been talking about, and maybe, because it looks like obviously we're getting Styles and Logan Paul at Mania, so that'll be that thing.
Right.
And Chad Gable and this gimmick he's in.
El Grande Americano.
Right, which, a couple things. So, to me, what are you talking, this whole, well, first of all, because I don't think I mentioned it, but the vignette from last week, if you didn't see that, where he, it's like all these black and white photos from Grande Americano, making up all this history, but that was fucking good. But I say all that to say, wouldn't the payoff for Gable and this whole gimmick to be Penta? And not, are we saying now it's is it Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio? Which, again, no shade to either one of those guys, but what?
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on with that. And also, if you didn't see that match, which I do think was a legitimate botch, how that match ended when Gable, I guess he was going to do a moonsault maybe, or a hurricane, I don't know, something off the top rope. Right. And he winds up pulling off Dragon Lee's mask, which I don't think was supposed to happen. If you see how Gable acted afterwards,
right. Yeah.
They just kind of had to go to the end of the match, right there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, that was just kind of it's nothing that, yes, it was an accident, a botch, whatever. It's not going to happen all the time, but just to have that botch and then this whole gimmick and whatever, and if you're telling me the payoff is Dragon Lee and LWO or Rey Mysterio and not Penta, then what the fuck, man? So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, fatal 4-way for the IC title. Like I said, this Mania is just a fatal 4-way triple threat orgasm fest, man. That's all it is. God damn.
Yeah. And a lot of people are comparing this WrestleMania to WrestleMania 20. I don't know if you remember WrestleMania 20, but there was a lot of multi-person matchups from WrestleMania 20. I believe it was Triple H, Benoit, and then another person in a triple threat, to where they're trying to.
Might have been, was it Guerrero maybe? Benoit
might have been Guerrero, might have been, yeah. So there was a lot of
maybe
other multi-person matchups. So people are making that type of comparison to WrestleMania 20 from not too long ago, but. Chad Gable, right? We're gonna name him after a Starbucks latte. That's his booking. His El Grande Americano. Listen. Granted, right? I always make this type of comparison to, or at least the shtick that Chad Gable is in, to somebody like a Kurt Angle, right? Kurt Angle would do these funny comedic shticks and it would be gold,
Yeah.
right? And if there's anybody to put on a luchador mask and make it comedic gold, it is Chad Gable, right? He is the right person for the job.
Yep.
But I don't know, man. I also just feel like too, man, that like, because not a lot of people are really like, I just feel like if this was Vince McMahon, I truly feel like people would be shitting on this if this was Vince McMahon booking it. I truly feel that way.
Fair.
Because it does come across kind of silly, but because sometimes it's Triple H and we want to say, oh, let him cook, give him a chance. It's just like, oh, we'll give it a pass. But if this was Vince McMahon booking this shit, we would immediately just completely shit on it. That's just my takeaway from it. But again, if you want to put anybody in this situation, it's Chad Gable. I don't know what this has to do with WrestleMania, though, unless they're going to just throw something just last minute. For Chad Gable.
Right. I don't know that it does. I'm just saying, just in that whole gimmick, and like whether it's Triple H or Vince, if Penta's the payoff, great. Like, fucking do this. But if it's LWO, Dragon Lee, Rey Mysterio, what?
Yeah. It's weird. And again, if you are going to go back to Penta, right, are people going to care about it within the next couple of weeks when WrestleMania is done with? Because they're not going to do this at WrestleMania. And that's what I mean. Like, what is this El Grande Americano stuff? Yes, it can be. It can have its perks, no question. But what is this? What does this have to do with WrestleMania that's legit in about 3 weeks or less than 3 weeks from now? It does. It's just fucking weird. It's just weird timing. It's just really odd. So yeah, man. Listen, man. John Cena, dude. That man right now is carrying the build of this WrestleMania season on its back, right? And listen, we're all going to, at the end of the day, when we get to this said event, we're going to maybe praise some matches and maybe the overall show itself and say, oh, this was good. It had some good moments. It had this and that, right? But guys, we talk about, what does WrestleMania season mean, right? The WrestleMania season is the journey. It's how you get there. And the way that we're getting there is absolutely just all over the place. And nobody cares about majority of these storylines because this company doesn't know what to do with 90% of this fucking roster. It's supposed to be a journey. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be electrifying. Outside of Cena's heel turn, there's absolutely nothing, guys. I mean, nothing. I can't be more honest with you. There's absolutely nothing. And I'm glad that maybe there's some fans out there that were buying into all the hype and, it feels like WrestleMania season now after Elimination Chamber. Yes, it did for one night. But then afterwards, man, it's been a clusterfuck, man. Nothing makes sense. Everybody, we don't know who's a heel or a face. You're splitting your audience. You're doing one thing and doing a complete other thing that's opposite. It's all over the place, man. It's just, and that's Triple H's booking, right? If you watch this freaking product, if you're a casual and say, wait, that doesn't make sense. Well, again, welcome to Triple H's booking. Welcome to WWE, where nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense at all. So yeah, man, and that's just it, bro. I mean, who knows? Again, at this point, Brian, if we're not sold with how WrestleMania is being booked at this point, I don't see it changing. This is going to go down, guys, as one of the worst builds to WrestleMania of all time. Like, at least for my lifetime.
Could good shit come out of Mania? Sure. But the build getting here, Mania outside of Cena and The Rock, what happens there?
It's
the build for these is garbage.
It's awful. It is absolutely awful, man. It really, really is, man. And again, it sucks for the talent that are trying to make the most out of honestly nothing at this point. But the booking and how people are being portrayed, it's just a mess. It's a clusterfuck, bro. And that's going to do it, y'all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. This was a jam-packed show. We talked about a lot of shit today. Baseball, TNA, AEW, freaking NXT, Monday Night Raw. There was a lot to go over in this show, but we wouldn't have it any other way. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you guys continue to stick around as we have WrestleMania coming up. We have the Roundtable coming up, which is just in a couple of weeks. We got a bunch of content creators that will be participating onto this roundtable event. Who those people are going to be? Well, you got to stick around and find out who those participants are going to be. Also, once again, shout out to the Holy Shit Podcast. I believe this collaboration episode will be coming out later sometime this week, later on this weekend, I believe. So once that episode does drop, We will be publishing out to you guys, or at least sharing some links to all of you guys through our social medias. Once again, shout out to Abe and the Holy Shit Podcast. We appreciate those guys for having us on their platform. So we appreciate that. It was a really good time. So can't wait to see how that video comes across, and how that video, what's the word I'm looking for? Or at least how the production is overall. But once again, thank you to the Holy Shit Podcast.
Great time though. Yeah, absolutely.
Really great time. So, of course, check those guys out. And, of course, check us out on social media. Make sure you guys follow us on TikTok and on Instagram. That is Ruthless_Talk. Of course, for our podcast, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've had a couple more subscribers that are joined the platform. So thank you guys. If you are new, hi, how are you? I know it may sound that we're very harsh at times, but listen, don't be scared. We're just very honest and amplified people. Listen, we love professional wrestling as much as you do, but listen, man, when it comes to this platform, we're just very honest, and we don't bullshit with people. We don't have time to bullshit with people. So if you're into what we do, if you appreciate our words, then we appreciate you guys, and we appreciate you being a part of this community. So stay tuned for more content to come in the near future. Brian, final thoughts before we end this show.
Thank you, Cena. Thank you, Cena. And God damn it, I can't bring back that spinner belt, homie. Bring back that fucking spinner belt.
Oh, man. He's going to pull a CM Punk, and he's going to leave with the championship like CM Punk did at freaking Money in the Bank in 2011. He's just going to bring that belt just to freaking leave with it and bring it home and retire with it. But yes, if we would have started a Thank You Cena chant, we would definitely do it, because, man, outside of that, WWE, Triple H, you ain't got nothing, bro. Unfortunately, there is absolutely nothing. And that is going to do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Thunder Tits.
We are signing off, saying salutes.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody. Top guys, we are out.
The skin is bright and pale, the pain will never fail.